Ever wonder what's really behind that number on your electricity bill? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on this huge, high stakes battle happening in the energy sector. And believe it or not, the front line, it's your monthly statement.
So think about the last bill you paid. Was it just a number? You know, a simple cost for keeping the lights on? Or was it something more? We're about to explore how that single piece of paper is basically a dispatch from the front lines of this massive global shift to a low-carbon economy. So, okay, where does this all begin?
Well, to really get a handle on this fight, we have to understand the battlefield itself. And when it comes to climate action, the electricity sector isn't just part of the puzzle, it's pretty much the engine room for the whole thing.
So, why is electricity ground zero? It's because so many other parts of our lives are going electric. I'm talking about electric cars replacing gasoline ones, or heat pumps taking over for natural gas furnaces. For any of that to actually cut emissions, the electricity powering it all has to be clean first. It's the absolute critical first step. No way around it.
And the scale of this challenge, it's just massive. I mean, look at this chart. It shows you just how big a piece of the pie the energy sector is when we're talking about emissions. This makes it both our biggest problem and, you could argue, our biggest opportunity for a solution.
Okay, so for the companies that actually produce our power and the banks that finance them, climate change isn't just some environmental thing. It's a huge financial deal. And the risk here really comes in two very different flavors. On one side, you've got physical risk. This is the one that's easy to picture, right? A hurricane slams into a power plant, a massive heat wave strains the grid. It's the direct punch from the weather. But on the other side, you have something called transition risk. Now, this is the tricky one. It's the risk that comes not from the weather itself, but from our response to climate change. So here's the crucial point. Transition risk is all about the economic shakeup caused by new climate policies, the rise of cheaper green tech, or even just big shifts in what consumers and investors are demanding. It's basically the financial fallout of leaving that old carbon-heavy economy behind. Now, lots of industries are facing these risks, for sure. But utility companies, they are in a uniquely tough spot. They're sitting right in the hot seat of this whole transition. Let's break down why that is. First off, utilities build stuff that's meant to last for decades. We're talking power plants, transmission lines. They also operate in a super heavily regulated market, and their whole business is a direct target for climate policies, like putting a price on carbon. That combination makes them incredibly sensitive to the exact kinds of changes that define transition risk. And this brings us to a really critical idea, the stranded asset. Just imagine a company builds a brand new coal plant today, right? They're expecting it to run and make money for maybe 40 years. But what if in just 10 years, new carbon taxes or super cheap renewables make that plant so expensive to operate that they have to shut it down? Boom, that plant just became a stranded asset, a multi-billion-dollar investment that can't earn its keep anymore. And check this out. This isn't just some theory. Investors are already acting on it. Look, over 10% of them see a very high risk for traditional power companies. That's not just a gut feeling. That's a number that literally changes who gets money and who doesn't. We're talking about billions of investment dollars shifting from brown to green. And that shift, well, it has a price tag. So how does this kind of abstract transition risk become a real concrete dollar and cents cost for a power company? Well, one of the most powerful ways is by putting a direct price on carbon pollution. To see how this works in the real world, let's look at probably the best example we have, the European Union's emissions trading system, or the EU ETS. It's been around since 2005, and it puts a direct price on every ton of carbon for power companies. It's a system called cap-and-trade. Here's the gist. Imagine there's a limit, a cap, on total pollution. Companies get a certain number of permits to pollute. If they're dirty and want to pollute more, they have to go out and buy permits from cleaner companies that don't need all of theirs. So, what's the bottom line? Polluting now has a price tag, a real one, and it shows up right on the company's balance sheet. And just look at what's happened to that cost. For years, the price of one of these permits, or allowances, was pretty low, but as that cap has gotten tighter, the price has just skyrocketed. What cost a power company about €5 back in 2017 cost them nearly €50 by 2020. That is a massive increase in the cost of doing business if you're a fossil fuel generator. So, where do these huge new costs go? Do the companies just eat them? Well, research gives us a pretty clear answer. This study here looked at the Italian market and basically concluded there's a direct link between the price of those carbon allowances and energy prices. In their words, it reveals a shifting of the tax burden from the firm to the final consumer. And that right there brings us full circle, back to your electricity bill. Because that final consumer, well, that's you. This is exactly how the high-level policy battlefield makes its way right into your home. You see, a rising price on carbon completely changes the financial math for everyone involved. For a utility, it makes running a coal or gas plant way more expensive. For an investor, it makes a new wind farm look a whole lot more attractive than a fossil fuel plant. And all of these financial ripples, they eventually reach the shore, and that shore is your monthly statement. And on top of all that, there's the just staggering cost of the transition itself. I mean, the EU alone is facing an annual infrastructure investment gap of over 400 billion euros. That's money needed to build the new green grids, transport, and energy systems we're talking about. And that money has to come from somewhere, and ultimately, it's financed through the energy system.
So here's the key takeaway. When you see your electricity bill creeping up, it's not just one thing. It's the cost of those carbon allowances being passed on to you. It's the cost of building billions of dollars in new renewable projects and grid upgrades. It's the entire financial re-engineering of our energy system, all boiled down and reflected in that one final price you pay.
So the next time you open that envelope or click on that email, maybe take a closer look. You're not just seeing a bill for services. You're seeing a financial report from a global battlefield. You're seeing the price of a historic, necessary, and incredibly complex energy transition. You're not just seeing a cost. You're seeing the cost of change.